One, two, three, go.
Catholic schools were encouraged to be better. It was, after all, an unequal world for which these children were being prepared. These children were born into a post-war British National Health Service, maintained, such as our family, by a British welfare system, and benefiting from a British education system. Of those 13 boys who sat that exam in St Joseph's, 3 passed and got into the local Catholic grammar school, which was run by the Irish Christian Brothers, which was a brutalising and brutal environment. What happened to those 3 boys? Well, we of course came across a wider circle of Catholic boys from the professional classes and better working class areas. One of those boys went on to university and recently retired as a chief librarian in a major English city. I dropped out of school just before taking my chance of going to university and had a menial clerical job in the civil service until retiring some years ago, 2005. The third boy, he got expelled from school after just 6 weeks and lived a life of petty crime. He's dead now, and he is an entry in the book Lost Lives. Now, he never had a political thought in his life, but on one occasion he tried to hold up a filling station using an imitation firearm and was shot dead by the police. Yet going to grammar school took me out of Devonshire Street. Indeed, one of the side effects is that I was not quite at ease with the street and not quite at ease with the new people I was meeting. A kind of no man's land. And yet I had more contact with Catholic boys who lived in those streets above and to the right, to the north and to the east of Devonshire Street. Now, the environment of living in a Catholic street was very different from living in a mixed street. Different protocols. Go into a house to talk about homework or listen to records, whatever, and you may feel that they were not just Catholic icons on the walls. Often they had Republican icons or records or whatever. Often my father knew these boys' fathers. They were men from the 1940s and 1950s who had that faint whiff of cordite about them. These were IRA families. Now, with a British Health Service, a British Welfare Service, and an education service that was British as well, it might not be clear why Catholics were not as grateful as they should be. And I think there are perhaps 3 areas which were not so good. One was jobs. The big private employers in the city were practically closed shops to Catholics. The shipyard, the one that built the Titanic, Sirocco, Mackey's, the Shorts aircraft factory. The second issue was housing. The allocation of public or council housing was in the hands of local councillors, and simply put, in the slum that was Devonshire Street, priority was given to Protestants who regularly got these new council houses on the edge of the city. Now, my family seemed to spend every Sunday and summer looking at new houses being built, but it was not until 1970, when our house was on the point of falling down, it literally leaned backwards, that we got our public sector housing, complete with that bathroom and a small garden, about 3 miles away. The third element of real contention was basically a political discrimination. There was the Special Powers Act, but there was the real pettiness, perhaps, of the Flags and Emblems Act. Now, I suppose you could say that the Special Powers Act was in many ways like your Patriot Act. It was certainly a bone of contention with nationalists and Catholics, but the Flags and Emblems Act was much more petty. This was a piece of legislation which determined that, with the exception of British and Commonwealth flags, all other flags were subject to being objected to by any individual, and the police had to remove it. Now, although this applied to all flags, such as Ecuador or Kenya, well, Kenya is actually a Commonwealth country, but it applied to, it could apply to Ecuador or Bolivia or whatever, but it really meant the Irish flag. Okay?